And I'm live. There we go. I'm reading all the messages. It has been a rough day. Human error. I need to move a controller to a cloud key. Didn't forget. Press live. Yep. So we are live now. I see my face. I see all of you. While we wait, let me continue with my Wazoo install. Maybe the beers aren't cold enough. The beers will be flowing shortly. I've got that going on. Let me make sure I got all the mics. All right, we're using this mic today because it's convenient, and I didn't feel like the other one's bent. We got a little bendy arm that holds the microphones up. There we go. Sound is good. Sound check. Check 1, 2, 3. Check 1, 2, 3. We are good. Awesome. Anyways, good afternoon. Hello from New Zealand. I get to say hello tomorrow, 9 a.m. my time. I don't know what time it is in Switzerland, but I got a client in Switzerland at 9 a.m. tomorrow, and I think that's pretty cool. So that's happening. Man, what did I want to talk about today? Oh, Detroit Meats. That's the first thing we'll talk about. Detroit Meats, and what is all this? Let's turn this off. I don't have my phone turned off, so I'm doing that now. So, all right. One phone has been muted. It has been some of the most amazing amount of phone calls today, and I'm happy, but also, it's a lot to deal with occasionally. So, one of the things that I actually had a discussion with was one of my friends, and it was a discussion about even selling time slots for discovery, and that's something that I'm going to get to in a second and talk about. But first, it's 10:26 p.m. in Switzerland right now, so that means it's going to be like 6 o'clock in Switzerland if it's 6. Is that early? I don't know. I'm not going to think about time zones right now. But hey, from Switzerland, for those of you that hail from that area. What did I want to talk about? Detroit Meats real quick. I have a picture of that. Woohoo! And is this the right one? Hey, look. I did it right. So Detroit Meats that's Xavier for those of you that follow the channel and the DC313 and everything related to that. That is, first let me switch back to the main camera here. Let me make sure there's no personal photos or anything that has customer information on it. There is not. I can show you all of this. Okay, cool. Anyways, go back over here. Who's going to make sure you don't want to swipe right and have something that's personal in there? Anyways, but yeah, we had a great time, and this is an event put together. This was spread across 3 campuses and 3 buildings. This is only like a partial. There's actually a series of rooms behind there. But one of the things that we're trying to really build is a venue where we're doing this. This is Xavier giving a class on cloud security in Amazon, and we're trying to get some more local engagement to get more people in tech. And I thought it was kind of cool. And if you haven't heard of Tech Elevator, I had a meeting with them there, so I'm following up with them to find out they would like me to be a panelist. And what Tech Elevator is an accelerator program to get people a career path change into programming. They opened up a Detroit office here, and I think it's pretty cool. So that's kind of what the mention is on Detroit Meets and what that is. So it's actually going to be something we're doing. I mean, this is very grassroots local. If you're in the Detroit area, look for those. We've been posting them. You can look up Detroit Meets, and there's all kinds of meetups for different programming and coding groups and stuff like that. So that was kind of a fun event I was at yesterday. I definitely enjoyed it, and occasionally getting out in the community and not just being behind the keyboard is kind of fun. You get to meet some people and passionate developers, and that's always a fun thing because I always get aggravated, and I ranted about this a little bit earlier today over on Facebook, but it's like, people, the world is getting worse, all these negative people and everything else, and I'm like a pathological optimist, and I'm like, no, you're hanging out with the wrong people. Sit down with this crowd. I'm watching people who are motivated, who want to get things done. It's a great, a lot of energy in the crowd of people that, let's do this, and we're working on this project and this project. That's the right people to be around. I mean, if you think the world is very bad all the time, then you're probably around the wrong people. You're focusing your attention on the wrong things. I mean, hey, I'm not saying nothing as bad as ever going on, but it's not getting worse all the time like some people like to perceive. So that's kind of my rant on that, but I did have a lot of fun with that. So, and it's kind of one of the things I talked about there is what I'm going to bring up. So let me make sure I'm following up all the questions. Greetings from Central Florida, Finland. Wow. Yes. Nope. How they got hacked did change schedule. We just didn't have time. My stepdaughter got married. Therefore, we'll switch over to Google Photos. This is what happened instead of how they got hacked. Tom was at a wedding. So, yes, my stepdaughter got married. That's the wedding pictures. So this is what Tom was doing instead of the how they got hacked thing, was all the wedding related things. So she's happily married now, which is awesome. So that went well. There they are dancing, and there my son is covering himself in glow sticks. And then my son was also the cameraman at the wedding, so he was excited because we did film some of the wedding from the balcony. So that's what happened instead of how they got hacked. We didn't have any other time slots available to record it, so that's the story for that. Nothing major. Awesome, but it didn't have time to do it. So so thank you for all the congratulations. But back to the Detroit meets. So one of the things I've been thinking about a lot is, what other products I want to make. And I see product, but I mean software development specifically when I'm talking about product. And me and Xavier are putting our heads together because we realize there's some different gaps in the market that we might be able to fill, especially in the MSP documentation side, which we do use a wiki. I've talked about this. I've got 3 or 4 videos about it. But we're going, hey, why not take it a step further? And on how they got hacked, we've talked about things like Confluence. Everyone's like, well, there's Confluence in the market. But anyone who has dealt with Confluence understands why there is need for more things in the market, such as a replacement for Confluence. So we might be writing it. We might be doing this whole thing as open source. We're just trying to figure out how I shouldn't say might be. The plan would be to do the whole thing as open source because that's where my heart lies. And we just got to put a business model around it. I think there might be some opportunity there to offer support services, just like any other open source product. Like, hey, all the code's free, but if you want to buy our support services, it costs this much, or our hosting services to host these documentation systems. So, yeah, that's going to be very interesting. I am a grandpa already. There's a lot. I have a lot of kids. Well, between me, these are some of my stepchildren, so there's already kids. I'm a grandpa already, for those of you that didn't know. So the age ranges are my son currently being 12, and the eldest son is 26. So yeah. Anyways, and there's grandkids involved. So. So anyways, thank you though for all the well wishes. But we think there's a good opportunity in the market to create a good documentation server that is designed for the IT space that will help with documentation. And there's just some of the products out there I don't like the way, I'm going to call out IT Glue is one of the real popular ones out there. And IT Glue has a lot of features and all that, but there's no self-hosted instance, and they can read your password back to you unless they've changed anything, and feel free to point it out if they have. But to my knowledge, my understanding of their methodology is they do not, their databases are encrypted, but their support personnel, granted it's log, granted it goes through proper auditing, but they can read your password. Anytime anyone can read your password back to you, that's a service that makes me nervous. So, me and Xavier I think we have some clever ideas. I got to talk to him about how feasible they are, but I did have some conversations yesterday with him and some other developers, and I think we might have a cool plan for that. So that's going to be something that we roll around, and you'll hear about on a channel once we have a plan. I'm not secretive about anything that I do. It's not like some dark skunk works project. Get excited about it. We'll be very public about the development of the project. So. So let's see. Oh, someone has switched from XCP-NG over to Zen Orchestra and Zen Orchestra after seeing a video from them. Awesome. They're a great combination. That's exciting, too. That will be the next topic. So that's all I have to say about the Detroit meets and meeting with developers and things like that. A little bit of channel news, though. We will have a server here soon from a company. I'm working all this on some of the details. But we're going to be doing... I'm going to drag this over here. Sorry if it falls into the microphone. It makes noise, but we're going to be doing more server build videos, and one of the things that the question comes up, build it or buy it type questions. We're going to be answering some of that, and we're going to have a channel sponsor who's going to help us out with that and offer some. There's another microphone over here. Offer discounts for people who want to. Purchase servers and things like that. Enterprise equipment at really good prices. So they're going to send us a server, and we're going to talk about building things on, standardized server systems and how affordable is it, some of the best deals you can buy. And in reality is the deals are very good. This is actually how our current FreeNAS system is, which I've never really reviewed, which maybe I'll pull it out and review at some point in time. But buying some of these used servers, you can build a hell of a server. Well, have a server delivered, I should say, not build, but spec one out essentially, used for really good prices right now. Some of these cloud companies are on the cutting edge all the time. Therefore, they take servers that are only, maybe a couple years old and take them out. They're actually make really good lab and systems for people who want to get into loading up hardware. We're going to do a video on this because this is like if you want to build it yourself and where you get some of the parts for that. And we're also going to do some videos on, pre-built bought servers and setting up and configuring them and what changes need to be. So yeah, that's going to be a lot of fun with those videos and with that channel sponsor. And that's kind of the goals, is to get Tom making more videos. You notice I've been posting a little bit more frequently, and then I get buried a little bit in the curve of work that comes in, but I'm training more staff to help handle some of the volumes of work and some of the network engineering stuff. So who's the IT glue contender? That would be us. That's the plan. I would be contending with IT glue. I mean, there's other companies currently. There's Confluence. If you're not familiar with Confluence, not that it's really an IT glue contender, but it's a documentation server. And there's SI Portal, SI Portal, I believe they are. They're another contender for IT glue, but they're a self-hosted system. But people I talked to said that their interface feels really hokey, and it runs on Windows, and it's all closed source. So it doesn't interest me. So anyways, yeah, PM that is. So yeah, those are some of the things that we're working on and all that fun stuff. Yes, XCP-NG is the best. I can agree with that statement. I really enjoy it. And it, I always like to bring it up. Sometimes people think because I like a product, I hate others. I don't hate the other products necessarily. I may not use them, but they may not be the ones I choose to use. It doesn't mean I hate them. It just sometimes I'm familiar with it. And if they don't present a feature that makes me want to switch to them, because someone's like, hey, review this, I'm like, it's no compelling features off the other things I'm using. Therefore, why, unless there's something that gets me excited about it, I may not take the time to learn it because time is finite. A service that makes me nervous. Yeah, I've said that quite a few times, and that's just a general rule. Like I said, if any company can read back a credit card number you gave them, a password you gave them, stop and think about it, and then you can really go, okay, this may be the best choice of software, because that means anyone in that company can read it. And this has come up before with a lot of companies, and they don't properly encrypt databases and the way they handle things. And I think I have an interesting twist. And the twist is going to be basically how LastPass handles things, where all the decryption handles here, but there's a few more steps to be able to handle a documentation server where you're only decrypting at the edge. So yeah, it's going to be something interesting. Hopefully it works out well. I think it's going to be kind of fun. So yeah. Unraid's popular. A lot of people have asked me about Unraid. I don't have any plans to do videos on it. There's a couple other people that do. I don't not like the biggest fan of it. Like, I've looked at it. It looks novel. I don't think it's a bad product. I just don't really have a use case for it compared to FreeNAS. The hypervisor in FreeNAS is not amazing. Anyone will point out, but they're getting better. But I don't really use the hypervisor in FreeNAS either. I use the hypervisor in XCP-NG, and I use FreeNAS for storage. So, but hey, that's whatever works for you. If that's what works, I just had a client. They're doing some integration. They emailed me, and I emailed them back right away. They changed their mind about getting FreeNAS. They want to go with the QNAP, and I'm like, that's fine. They're like, oh, you're not going to argue, I'm like, no, whatever you want to use. They're very familiar with the QNAP, they said, and I said, no problem, then use the QNAP. I mean, whatever, hire me for the network engineering part. I said, just don't expect me to be a master at the QNAP interface. But they said they are. So I said, well, no problems. I'll tell you what settings need to be. Just to tell me where the settings spot is, get me there, and cool. I'll put I'll match it up to your network, and we'll get everything configured. So I'm pretty flexible when it comes to a lot of that. We deal with a massively diverse amount of environments, which is kind of fun. I like that. So, yeah. Synology Active Backup. If you want to swing back to Synology, you see the camera sitting up here. We've got a whole series of videos on the Synology surveillance station that we're prepping, but I didn't want to just prep the videos and do them in here. We're taking you on site with them. We're going to show you the whole install. This is an on-site video for an install that I think is finished. I don't know. There were some hang-ups with finishing it, and you'll get a better idea in the project because it's a multi-facility project. It's not just some cameras. It's some cameras and site to site, and it's some networking that had to occur. And I'm going to discuss the whole project on there of why there were some delays because of getting permission to mount on other buildings and things like that. So, but that's just kind of the fun. Synology makes a nice product too. It's what fit this client's needs, and that's always where we start. Someone asked me about how we do support, and I'm like, we start with the needs. What are the needs before you recommend product? I don't immediately recommend the product and then hope it fits your needs. That's doing it backwards. You start with what are the client's needs? What are the feature sets they need? What are the things you need to get done? Then we move into how we do some of the other stuff. That's the important part about any of these support tools we use. The client needed to, I spent some time today finishing up an HA install, a pretty complicated one with a series of VLANs and a pair of XG7100s. And not real complicated, but there's a little bit of repetition to it when you have to keep creating all these CARP addresses and failover addresses and failover gateways, and then create all the VLANs across each of the devices, et cetera, et cetera. But, it starts with what was the need? We need high availability. We need redundancy. We have to have this, this, and this. And okay, so we're going to build that and build that. We just reloaded this little super micro back here is now running the latest version of Untangle because I want to cover some new features that Untangle has, because I tell people all the time and they get upset by this, but when they go, I want my PF Sense to have this, this, and this. I'm like, well, PF Sense does not have great content filtering system. Yeah, you can load squid. Yeah, you can bang away at it. Untangle, they kind of just take care of that. Untangle is a nice system that it's kind of like, once we start with the need, you care more about filtering than everything else. You want all this per computer website filtering, et cetera, et cetera. Untangle makes that very nice, and they've updated that again, the new version of their software, and so I'm going to be doing a video on that specifically and how that works. But like I said, it comes down to we started with the need. The solution is that. Now the downside, I say downside, but this is a problem for some people, is Untangle. Yes, it's open source, but the add-ons, like all the filtering, do cost money. And then people start looking at the licensing fees, but they cost fees. I'm like, you're paying for the service of getting the data feed. The data feed to figure out which websites are good and bad and have that automatically update in the magical way you think everything should work. That costs money. That's why PF Sense doesn't do it. They do not have a data stream that is, you're pulling from different ones. Even a PF Blocker, those feeds are different people who run these feeds that have some lists and files to block things on DNS, which is kind of like a blunt object, versus filtering on the website level, which is much more fine-grained to do. All that feed data to categorize websites is what you pay for when you buy Untangle, and you want those licenses. It still routes if the license runs out, but it doesn't filter with the fine-grained system once the filtering runs out with the license. That's life. You're paying for a service. If filtering matters, this is the solution. Then you have to make the conscious decision. How much does filtering matter? Yeah. So those are some of the rants I have on some of that. Back to selling time slots, selling pieces of my life, and well, not just my life, selling time slots for my technician. This is something we've been working on, and we're for those of you that have engaged with us, we're streamlining a couple things, because we've always did things on site. We've always done things locally. We've always done things where we have like physical access to the client. So I just had to make sure I rethink a lot of that, of how we handle everything remotely for some of these customers, and including the bookings to make it a little bit easier because of time zones and confusions related to that. So we set up a whole booking page that is not going to be public, but it's going to be public when you start to engage with us. Once you decide that you're ready to spend money and book our time, we've streamlined that process. And that's one of the things that's really important when you think about businesses. Me and Brett actually did a secondary video that we posted only on Facebook because it was about the customer experience you're creating. Maybe we'll do one there. We called out and talked about a lot of local businesses. Therefore, I didn't bother posting it on YouTube because it's not as relevant. We have another video that's more relevant that's going to be posted maybe later today or tomorrow. But the important aspect is that, it's about how you create customer experience and how, you look at what are all the barriers to entry to a client engaging with you and try to eliminate those barriers as best you can. That's just an important aspect that not everybody takes the time to think about, but that's what business is. It's a series of processes and procedures that you have to put together, and then you constantly should be reevaluating those to make sure they're still efficient, that they're still effective, and they're still the right way to do it. So that's what I've been doing, is focusing on a lot of the company's internal workflows to make sure that they flow in the right way to make things, as easy as possible. What are those barriers? What are the parts where there's a hang up for someone getting something done? Okay, how do we eliminate that? Is there a more efficient way we can do it? And the way you can tell a company before they go out of business is when they start with the attitude of, it's always been this way, this is the way we've always done it, and next thing you know, they're not doing it at all anymore. And they didn't grow with the times, change with the times, modify their business model to match. So might be an off topic, but have you heard of Bitwarden, an open source online password manager? Do you trust it? So good news, Bitwarden, which I have not reviewed it, but they did go through some code audits, which is what I waited for a long time, until any company has gone through a third-party solid code audit. Now, granted, code audit doesn't mean there's no bugs in it, but it's a really great step in the right direction. And the reason more companies don't do third-party code audits is it's damn expensive. I know Keybase, because they published just how much they spent. I don't know what Bitwarden spent on there, but I think they spent over $100,000 on their code audit. Code auditing is no joke. When you talk about auditing security, you have like a group of researchers, and it costs $100,000 and takes them several months to comb. Even though it's open source and anyone can comb through the code, having someone really vet and test the code is an important feature. And I believe Bitwarden went through a code audit. I have not tested it myself. I'm excited about it as a project because it's open source, and I have the inertia problem of I'm already using LastPass, so it's hard for me to push off of LastPass and look at something else, because LastPass is just so inexpensive that it's not a cost factor. It's whether or not Bitwarden works as well. I want to test it sometime. I know I can probably export my passwords. It's on my to-do list to test it. I just have not gotten around to it at the moment, but they have that design where they use encrypted blobs and everything else, so it looks really good. But LastPass has had a solid security record. When people, even like Tavis Ormandy, have poked at LastPass, they were very quick. Even though they were non-default edge cases, the types of hacks that were found, they were all addressed in less than 48 hours, every bug that was found. So that's really an impressive track record on security, and LastPass has been around a really long time. Looking forward. You will hear from me and Mr. Chipman very soon. Probably even after this. If I have time, I'll publish a video before I leave to go to an event I have to go tonight. How can I block BitTorrent? Once again, blocking is not easy on pfSense. Get Untangle. Pay the license fees. They have filters. BitTorrent's not easy. BitTorrent's designed to get around firewalls. So you could do some egress filtering, but if they move their egress out to a different port, they still get out and you still have BitTorrent on your network. So yeah, the filtering is the number one question we get. That's why I'm going to do a whole series of videos on Untangle all about filtering. And people are going to cry foul because they're going, but it costs money and I want a free thing that does all the magic for me. And I'm like, good, build it. Go build it. Take all your time. Build the incredible free thing. Keep all the feeds up to date and do it all for free. And then you'll have the free thing. Been using KeyPass for years. Yeah, KeyPass is really solid. They've been around for a long time as well. So very cool there. Bitwarden, I'm very interested in it. I just haven't had time to really look at it. It does look like a cool project. He's been a week for a few months, but if you got the first S, I don't know what that means. All right. What do we have here? Thank you for all the answering. Oh, awesome. I'm glad I answered all the questions there. I think I feel like I'm caught up on all of that, too. So that's definitely there. What was the errata I wanted to talk about? I'm trying to remember now. I don't remember exactly what it was. More Linux-y stuff. I think that was in my head, at least, what I wanted to talk about. I'm still running Parrot, and that's been kind of interesting. So the Parrot OS is really cool. One not block the BitTorrent or app. One not, I don't know what that means. Yeah, nothing is ever free. Well, it all depends on what your time is worth. That's what that's going to come down to more than anything else. What's your time worth? That's the judge of free. My time happens. I have a value I've placed upon my time at present as of, what is it today? As of why am I having trouble? Oh, 20th, June 20th. I had so many notifications I had to do that. Anyways, as of June 20th, my time that's not free is worth $200 an hour to book me. That is as of June 20th, 2019. So that way, if you reference me saying a time, it's published on our website. It is published right now, but in the future, the prices, unfortunately, due to inflation, will go up, not down. So that is what it is now, $200 an hour, in case you're wondering. So, yeah, hopefully that clears anything up for those of you wondering. My rate has been, like, so we're keeping that all published on the website. We don't, once again, it's about being transparent. And two, if you go to my contact page on lawrencesystems.com and you go, I wonder how much they are, I don't want that to be a question. I want that question answered, because I've had people tell me I am ridiculously overpriced. I've had people tell me I'm underpriced. Those opinions vary greatly, and it vary with where you're based out of. So that's fine. At least you know, and you either chose not to or chose to book us, but you knew that going in as you have knowledge of what our prices are. That's why I try to be very transparent with it. Saves us a click. I hate any company that doesn't publish prices. That's kind of annoying. It's part of a sales tactic where let's get your information, let's get you on our mailing list, then we'll tell you our pricing. And I'm like, not really. So it's one of those things, like, it's just is what it is type thing. So we do have a technical rate for booking our staff in general of $115 an hour. Once again, that's published on our website. So, and that's how we're doing it. We have time slots we sell for booking. As a matter of fact, Steve has been on the phone a lot lately. All of us have, just trying to sort out how many calls we've had lately. So it's kind of exciting. The thing I always talk about with business is kind of like playing a video game. The resources you have, you're always balancing resource management. Do I build more, like any of those resource games, or especially if they're turn-based, it makes it like, what am I going to do this turn? Do I hire more people? But what if I can't sustain them? What if it's only this weird week that we have a surge of extra business, but next week we don't? So those are always kind of fun to talk about and think about when you're doing it. And I actually think there's probably more games that could be made where you juggle complex resources, and I think that better prepares you for business than you may realize, especially if you take a game like that and it's permadeath, because there's permadeath in business. It's called bankruptcy, but it's kind of the same thing as permadeath in games. I think there's a lot of analogy that can be drawn between those two things right there. Let's see. I'm not overpriced. Well, thank you. How about blocking Internet Download Manager? So no, same problem. Whatever you want to block, it's not easy to block things. If you absolutely can pinpoint where the thing is coming from, you can block the IP address of that thing. So you could DNS sinkhole in it, and then you can block external DNS. And then I said that to someone in the forums, and I think it was in the forums, or maybe it was in the PFSense forums, but they're like, but it's like 300 sites, and the sites change a lot. I'm like, yep, sure does. Now you understand the list that's being kept up with things like Untangle, of when you want to block things like social media in general. Someone has to maintain a list and call it that, and sinkhole those sites. So yeah. Use iBoss. Yeah, iBoss sucks. I actually have run into that a few times. That's definitely an issue. Untangle, once again, you can do filtering with it. You can do filtering with Untangle at schools. They have special rates for schools. I know, and I don't know what the price is. I know Umbrella, which is now a Cisco company, used to offer really good rates for schools. I don't know their rates for schools anymore. So we don't always deal with the filtering as much, but the Untangle systems do offer filtering, and I believe they have rates for schools. If you want to contact me via the contact page, I can get those prices for you. We are an Untangle partner, so that's something we can work with you on and get a recommendation. Do I plan on opening another shop? I've had people ask me about it. I don't really I don't know that I want to. Physical presence is a pain in the butt. And I don't know that if I want to run another physical presence. So we're working our way more into co-managed IT. We've been taking on more clients where there's an internal IT department. That works better for us. Opening up another physical location, I can't. It's hard to cost justify. There's not. It's one of those things like, yeah, I could franchise, or if I could find the right people, I could open another location where they go and do the MSP thing and do the on-site thing like you do. But finding all the right people and things like that, I don't know if that's what I really want to do or not. So it's a maybe. You would have to take the right team of people, and the problem is if someone wants to buy the franchise, what they end up doing is they're sending a percentage back to me, the main company of said franchise. At some point, they go, "Why are we sending Tom money? We have all these clients now. Let's stop sending them money." And that's how all these franchises start and stop. Every IT franchise I've ever seen does the same thing. It's always like, I was working for XYZ franchise, and I realized, why do I give them 5% of the franchise commission fees? And they split off and go, I built the customer base, everybody knows us, and they start a new team. And someone can go, but that's why you have them sign a bunch of legal documents and blah blah blah. I'm like, yeah, good luck with that. That's just a lawyer's mess. Only one who wins there is lawyers. That's why I'm not a big fan of franchises. Let's see. Yeah. Backhoes are good for blocking access. They sure are. That is a good point. Yeah, if people are determined and resource enough, yep, they really do. Blocking is all best effort. If you do it and you load a client on the desktop, that's the way we handle it for our commercial clients. That comes with a fee. That's more expensive than putting Untangle in, but it works because we're managing every individual desktop and loading tools on each desktop to help mitigate the risk. So, yeah, in my experience, the people you don't think are smart enough are the ones that will make your life hell. Yeah, maybe. Are you a Netgate partner and can sell gear rather support you? Nope. I recommend buying direct from Netgate. That's what I tell people to do. We are not a partner. Netgate's a nice company, but there's no real benefit to being a partner because of the way their business model works. I like them. I support them. I tell people to buy hardware from them. We buy hardware from them. I don't get any better price than you, which I wish I did because I sell a lot of hardware. But whatever. I'm okay with this. And it's not that big of a deal because it's not the Netgate where the money's made. The way they want as I understand their partner network, is they want really you to push all the sales to them and push contracts to them and blah, blah, blah. And the commissions are super low, and it's just not as interesting to me. Why even get in that game if there's no money in it? So the better solution for me is, because selling them a PF Sense, that's not where the money is for us. That's cool, whatever. It's the bigger project. I'm doing, one of the emails I have to reply to after this is, we're coding out a large network engagement. Matter of fact, more than one. It's got VLANs and storage servers and all kinds of components to it. And by the way, at the head end of it is a PF Sense. But the PF Sense is the small part. The big part is the entire design of this infrastructure that's across a 3-story building, and tenants and guests and subleased tenants and everything else. That is a bigger project. So it's not like I want to even outsource the setup of the PF Sense. That's the easy part of this job. It's building out a handful of VLANs to match the different sub-businesses inside. The rest of it is coordinating everything else, which is actually the bigger project. So, yeah, that's just buy things direct for them. So, yeah, we don't have an affiliate link for them, so that just buy direct for them. There's no affiliate. We just we have them listed as an affiliate, but there's technically we get no commission for it. We get a thank you. They're nice people. They retweet our stuff and they're nice. So that I'm happy with that as a thank you for that particular company. Let's see. Any good digital signage? Oh yeah, Pi signage. Maybe I'll do a video on it. That's definitely one of them I like. It works off of Raspberry Pis. I work for Gibraltar, so I'll ask your system admin what he thinks about run into problems with during the school year of iBoss blocking sites for the students. Oh, yeah. Yeah. We work with some local school districts, and we've seen teachers setting up hotspots because they just, we have to get through the curriculum. I want to teach kids. iBoss sucks. No one can get it working right. It blocks everything. We hear a lot of complaints from the tech departments on it. And if they can't teach, and this comes back to that, start with a solution, start thinking about how you do things. The goal is to teach students. if you went to the filtering and you made it so restrictive that the learning process has stopped, what did you really do? You know what I mean? Did you really help the kids learn? Trust me, they've got the 4G on all their phones, man. Every kid does. They could care less. They're completely ignoring your Wi-Fi and going wherever they want, unfiltered. So you didn't solve any problems in terms of keeping the bad stuff away from the kids, but you did manage to break the teacher's ability to teach. Wow. And that's actually, here's a fun thing, because I've had to sit in these mind-numbing meetings at boards and things like that. Me and Brett's is about how to have good meetings, and nothing you do in a meeting should make a good Dilbert cartoon. I'm throwing it out there. Let me repeat that. Nothing you should do in a meeting would make a good Dilbert cartoon, or you're doing it wrong. If you want to make 100% sure nothing goes through your firewall, you don't want just making a allowed domain list. Yeah, that barely works though. That is, making allowed domain lists. I thought about making a video showing what a futile effort that is, because you look at one domain and how many places that one domain contacts. Good luck. It just breaks. There's so many interdependencies on so many different IP addresses when you open up any website that I don't know how you're going to really sort that out. You know what I mean? This is going to be one of those really big challenges. Let's pick a website. I don't know. We'll start with Yahoo maybe, and let's try something fun. Nope. We'll do. I'm trying to remember exactly the command where it rolls this right up, but sources. There we go. And switch over to here. But if you look at the sources right away, here's yahoo.com, yimage.com, search, what are all these other ones here? But you start breaking it down just to go to this site. And this is a problem, because now I have to yimage. Soka Research. Okay, those are the only domains. So it's actually not too many on this, but this is the problem. You have to allow all of those domains. And let's just, wow, Dr. Pimple, we're not clicking on that. We can click on this. And we just seen a couple more places pop up. And if we go to some other site, this one opens up the HuffPost, so it's probably the same thing. So we'll go here. And look at how many. Here's another one. HuffPost, Huffington Post, CMP, OAuth, Facebook.net, Pinterest, APIS.Google, and all those. So now you have to add all those into the list. But now you didn't want them to go to Google, but you want to be able to get to this. You can see how this quickly ramps up to be a very problematic thing to do. When you start trying to do implicit allow to do this, you have to really know what everywhere that website goes to and everything it connects to and everything it was built on, because you have to allow the interdependencies or it may not work at all. And they may detect blocking certain dependencies as an ad blocker and block you from viewing the site until you load those dependencies that you didn't want loaded. So the circle continues. Finn from Darknet solved that problem. Yeah. Educational content, schoolwork with is a constant issue. Yes, it is. Nothing worse than when you're trying to test DNS and have no clue what website you go to, land upon something sketchy porn. Yeah, that happens. Oh, yeah. There's a lot of tools that gather those IPs and add them to your firewall. Yeah, there is, and that's the thing. But you can see, and when they change, you also then have to run those tools again to update those changes. You can see it's a back and forth, non-static. It doesn't like do it once and it works. It is a battle, and especially if you have some admin or administrator that has to do this, it becomes their job to do this. Or you buy one of the commercial firewalls and you pay for the feeds that go into it to solve this problem. So, yeah, DNS whitelisting is a giant can of worms. I have to bypass VPN for Netflix. Yeah. And then this is the problem. Everyone gets excited, wants to run a whole house VPN because they're afraid their cable provider is going to learn something about them and sell it. Okay, cool, but now you're going to be blocked from Netflix and everything else. And it's fine. There's plenty of use cases for a VPN, but I'm not as worried about Comcast or Wide Open West, the providers I use, selling my data. Whatever, someone's going to sell it. How do I know the VPN provider is not selling it? I know they told me they're not. That's good enough, right? So I'm not overly worried about it. Then you need to worry about VPN sidestepping your DNS. Yeah, I'm using DNSSEC. I'm using my own DNS servers, which it's pfSense tied to DNSSEC, tied to Cloudflare, and to 999 as a backup. I'm fine with that. I know someone is upset because apparently Cloudflare something and IBM something, political rant. And I'm like, I've not found a website that didn't resolve, and changing the resolvers didn't help either. Therefore, they weren't filtering my world in some weird way. So I have an antiquated X250 laptop, for those of you wondering. Here's a review of it from a few years ago on my channel if you type in IBM X250. So no big deal there. Let's see. It's a battle, but if you want this kind of security, it's the only way I would guess. I don't know. I think people get too concerned about the wrong things. People have been really, upset about the RAM bleed and everything else, and I'm like, cool. It's not. It's the same thing. We still have not. It's not how attacks happen. We just seen this place in Florida get hit. I think it was in Florida. Another ransomware attack. They're not using Heartbleed. They have to have access to your system to do this. They have to have malicious software. And if they had malicious software, would they do something high intensity that slowly pulls out keys, or because they had high level access to your computer, would they just keylog you? If the access they need to get to the RAM is the same access they needed in many circumstances to get to a keylogger, so why wouldn't they just keylog you? That would be way easier. Just wait for you to type your passwords in. Yeah. Yeah, it's blocking 3 million domains. Like I said, I don't care as much about blocking the domains. I do some basic ad blocking. I have uBlock Origin on. I'm fine with that. It's not, ads are that agreement we have to get things for free. I make some money off YouTube ads. They're really not easy to block. Those ads, the pre-rolls and things that you pay. How do you get rid of them? I do this. I pay for a YouTube subscription. I don't know how much it is a month anymore. But that few dollars a month for the family plan, is it 12 now? I forget. Anyways, that monthly I pay means I don't see commercials in my YouTube. To me, that's worth it. That's a great system. And it works. So very cool. Yeah, someone's right. RAM bleed and the likes are kind of overblown. They're just not the likely. Because they're a more complex, painstaking attack. They're not going to be the widespread attack method. That's my feeling on them. They need to be fixed. They're problems. I won't argue with you. They're problems for cloud providers, because if you're having amounts of shared VMs and people that you share VMs with maybe can bleed over to the other ones, those are where the concerns, and I'm less than 100% clear on how effective it is. Like, I want to see someone pull some adjacent data out of like an AWS or Azure instance and of an adjacent virtual server. I would like to see that. I'd like to see a proof of concept demoed, and I haven't seen it. And I haven't seen it because I'm not saying it's not possible, but it's pretty plausible, but it doesn't sound like the best methodology of attack. Let's see. How do you know if a router can handle workload of a location before you deploy? Is there a stat you look for? Number of connections and what they're doing with those connections, bandwidth used, and number of state tables needed. And it kind of look back to the use case. What's the customer using it for? Is it a bunch of people wandering around on their phones? Is it a bunch of point of sale systems that actually are pretty low bandwidth because someone thought they needed a lot more because they moved to a cloud-based point of sale? Turns out that's actually statistically doesn't use a lot. Those point of sales are transactional. For selling merchandise, for example, we have a client that does this. The merchandise goes fast. It's a small transaction. It uses kilobits each time. Therefore, it doesn't make a difference. If they're doing streaming and they need 500 or a 1 gig fiber connection, streaming itself actually isn't too loaded up on there, but you have to have a firewall fast enough to do it, and then you'll scale up a little bit more. There's not an absolute easy formula for it, and it also depends on, are they going to be running things like IDS, like filtering? If they're going to be running things like Errata on there, you have to have the horsepower of the CPU in order to handle going through the interface and matching the data and things that come through there. So there's not an easy planning tool that's a one-stop shop, but you can get pretty close, and it's one of the nice things about pfSense. Just call their salespeople, kind of give them an idea what they're doing. They're pretty good about it. Or you step up to like an XG7100, they tell you how much it can route. It's got 10 gig routing functions on it, and it's $1,000. So it's not in the corporate world. That's a really low price for a firewall that can do that level of routing and the amount of systems it can handle. We still have companies that have like 400 people using a SG3100. So 400, granted, it's a lot of phones and tablets, but it has no problem handling that. Yeah, CPU architecture are more for targeted attacks. They're kind of one-off, unique ones. So, yeah, and so like I said, the hammer, the row hammer and ram bleed were both with DDR4. That's because, or DDR3, because DDR4 has better mitigations against it. So I think they're excellent white papers in the market. The published research related to those things is absolutely wonderful because it gets the people thinking about what we should be designing in the future for hardware. What changes should be made to the next iteration of hardware to help mitigate these things from happening. So they're hugely important to the market, so they're of great value, which is great. So yeah, PF Sense because of state tables. That was actually a problem in early gaming days. If you remember the infamous WRT series boxes from Linksys, they actually had a lot of trouble with games handling the number of state tables. And I was playing around with it, realizing my friends were having problems that I didn't, because at the back then it was IP cop is what Firewall I used to run. I've been running software-defined firewalls. My very first one was by Mandrake. Back when the Linux Mandrake was the thing. That's Mandrake, then IP cop, et cetera, history of Tom and his firewalls. But, one of the things they could do is, provided you had enough resources on the computer, you could increase the number of state tables and be able to play games that your friends with their WRT 54Gs just couldn't handle. Let's see. Bought a Dell R710, 2 Xeons, 80 GB RAM with a dual SFP card. Hey, awesome. The R710s is still what we're running. They're older, but they work, they function, they I don't got a problem with them. So they get the job done. So yeah, this is, and one of the things I want to do, and this is, like I said, some of the focus of why this is here is doing these videos about what computers to buy, buying some of these used off-lease type Dells, in building home labs. We have a lab. I have to test something because a client has a request that we're working with for the way they want to implement something in a data center, and we're labbing this out before we deploy. Because once you deploy in a data center, you want to make sure it's solid. So having a lab is huge. Xavier, who, from how they got hacked, he spends a lot of time in his lab. He does pen testing. He does a lot of that level stuff. Having a home lab so you can test this, whether you're testing for network engineering, whether you're a pen tester, a software developer, or you just want a stack that you have set up that you can run some CPU cycles on to do fuzzing or some of the other, more in-depth load testing on something, or application testing. That's why we have labs, so we can stand up things, test out software, understand it, and then deploy it. And it doesn't stop. You don't do this just because you're some home amateur. Labs apply to people who've been doing this professionally. I got good because of labs I've had and my combination of real-world experience. And then every time I look at real-world experience, I go, how can we do this better? Doing things in production is not always a good idea. So you change it out, you build it out in your lab. Does this work? Does this work? Cool. Can I do it this way? All right, what if I did it this way? Will it break? Okay, great. Awesome. Take that same knowledge you just learned and you apply it to your production environments and out for the clients. So yeah, Mandrake, best in the past. So that's a lot of why we do this. And I want to inspire more people to be passionate about it, to understand that it doesn't, there's some investment here, but guess what? Building out a home lab, way less than college here in America. Matter of fact, less than one semester of college in America, you can build a hell of a home lab and start your learning. That's one of the things that, if there's a lot of different theories for different things, but one of them, when it comes to some of the education, I think experience is huge. And some people do benefit more than others from like a college education because structured learning works better for them. It didn't work for me. And I don't poo-poo on college because I didn't go. I'm not one of those people, you don't need to go, it's a waste of time. For some people, it is a better venture for them. I deal well with my own sets of I'm willing to set up my own labs and design, and I have a lot of ideas, and I come up with my own structure. I've been doing it for a while, and it's, here I am doing it now. But it's one of those things. Spend money, build a lab, build yourself a really cool snazzy server, learn how everything works, take a project, find a goal, set a goal, learn everything you need to make that goal happen. Go read some books, buy lots of books, you can kind of create your own education on a lot of this stuff and get into technology. It's just a matter of picking a focus and figuring out where you want to be. Even Mo, he's not been like spending his entire life pen testing. He started, in Yahoo Messenger and goofing around when he was younger, and now he's doing it at a lot more professional level. You ramp up quickly in there where you really get focused on it and say, this is what I want to do. So, yeah, you can still buy. Wow, you can still. Lynx has said they sell those because so many people just love that box. Like, that box is the internet to them. So they sell it because people keep buying it. Is the best way. I think someone from Lynx was a representative in some podcast, and they asked them about why they still sell them. They go, because people keep demanding them. I'll stop selling the product when people keep bugging me to buy the product. Yeah. Yeah, and some companies don't have labs. Some companies don't have test environments like you're saying here. I see that. It's someone said my last job didn't believe in these things. Yeah, that's unfortunate. That happens. I don't have an answer for that. So they're not forward thinking. This is sometimes what causes people to job hop. They run into places that don't do things very well, so they have to switch jobs. Yeah. Just run everything in production. Actually, on a fun note, when I was at the dev meeting at Detroit Meets, a guy was kind of laughing because they were super angry. They brought him in and wanted to do a bunch of database development and load testing of their servers. So he said no problem, and they gave him access to. They had a duplicated. It was like I think like every other day it replicated a backup version, but a test version of their database that was called test. And that's what they gave him access to. Like, hey, this one's fine. You can load test it. What they didn't tell him, and he just didn't know, and he didn't think to ask, was that it was running exactly on the same server. So all the load testing of the test data actually brought down the main server because they were all on. It was just another database in the same database. It was like another database in the same server. And so they didn't even have the concept to move it to another server. So when they started doing application testing and brought it down, he wasn't thinking about it. He's just going about his day. And next thing you know, everyone starts knocking on the door like, hey, what are you doing, man? Everything's going up and down. He's like, well, yeah, I took the test one down. Oh, no, it's all on the same server. He's like, what? So that unfortunately happens. Let's see. Hands-on is the best learning. Yeah. Hands-on is the best learning unless you're a doctor. I'm going to throw it out there. I want a little classroom time before you start the hands-on process. Yeah. There's some awful companies out there. There's no doubt about that. There's always going to be. Yeah, there's so many headache companies. That's one of the reasons I run my own company. It's partly because I'm an entrepreneur and partly because I just like to do things the way I like to do things. So, yeah, tinker with things in the training lab. That's exactly. So my office has 3 stacks: production, test lab, and the hardware for my guys to tinker with on training. Yep. We have a lot more hardware floating around. We got a bunch of computers that we just do test things on all the time. It is part of the fun. There's a disconnect, especially for people who grew up in the cloud. And I say grew up in the cloud. I know a lot of developers, hackers. They've always spent their time in the cloud, so they've never spent any time with real hardware. There's an argument for that. If you don't want to tinker with any of the hardware yourself, and you have the money to just spin up cloud instances, go for it. I mean, that's kind of a convenient way to do it without owning any of your own stack. You could just go, hey, spin, and you get billed for all of them. You get billed for all the VMs you set up, but you can build things and build infrastructure, complete cloud infrastructure, and not have ever touched any of this. And it's not too unreasonable, but you can end up spending a few $100s a month pretty quickly trying to spin up cloud instances of everything. I mean, it works, but the prices, it comes down to budget. I know that these things do use some electricity, but my electrical bill is, for this building, we've added it up a couple times. The number of VMs we run would still cost more than the electrical bill for the building, which includes running the air conditioning and everything else. So, Yeah, doctors practice on corpses. There you go. Corpses are home labs. That would have been a great title. Corpses are home labs for doctors. So, yeah, that's hardware's forgiving. Yeah, the cloud bill isn't forgiving at all. They want your credit card. So that's a very different. They're very different animals. Well, I am going to jump out of here because I got to reply to a few more emails, and I have a event to go to. Go hang out with some geeks. All that fun stuff there. Is there anything else? Any last minute questions people have before I jump off of here in a couple minutes? Been going for an hour. I mean, make sure you go visit How They Got Hacked and the YouTube channel and the videos and watch all those if you haven't. Subscribe to our How They Got Hacked channel. We're going to be doing because we skipped last week, we're going to be doing a 2-hour special for the How They Got Hacked. So we're excited about that. We have a lot to talk about because it was 2 weeks, and it's hard enough to keep up with the news that happens in 1 week and figuring out what stories we should do. So now we have 2 weeks of stories. So, a dead end job, yeah. I have a closet with 75 Dell 4.3 LCDs if you want them. No, make those go away. I move my stack to the cloud, or I would double my power, and I'm paying CA. Yeah. Yeah, and cloud's not unreasonable. The other downside about cloud is the unpredictability factor. I love the Register for the online magazine news site. Dropbox just raised their prices, and they said, meet the new Dropbox. It's just like the old Dropbox, but more expensive. And that sometimes happens. Cloud companies just ratchet it up a little bit. And once you've built your stack there, even if you've built it movable, it's the effort of moving it. You're like, I guess I'll just pay the $20 more a month. So, yeah, Mo did get the stickers. Thank you very much. Well, he didn't physically take possession of them, but they're sitting on my desk for Mo, and he's aware of them. I've messaged him, but he hasn't been back here, so he'll be here Friday. Tomorrow's Friday, and he'll be here tomorrow, and that's how that'll happen. So that's the thing. And I will throw this out there. One of the cloud providers, not cloud providers, but colo companies, I guess a lot of IT people liked them. I wasn't very familiar with them, and their name eludes me at this very moment, but they declared bankruptcy, and all these people are upset because I go get their stuff out, and I'm like, one of the challenges you have is I see people running around looking for the bottom of the barrel, how cheap, and those companies are willing to welcome the new client base for very low prices, but if that's not a sustainable price, then they end up going bankrupt, and then you go, crap, I could get all my stuff out of the colo and move to another location. So that's something to think about because it's a pain moving all that stuff around and finding a new provider, especially if you've built your business model and your margins on it, and then you forward it on to the customer. You always have to make sure the customers understand that there could be some price increases because it trickles upward. They increase the cloud, you increase your costs, you then have to pass that cost along to the customer. So those are things you have to be careful of. Yeah, let's see what he has on his now. Yeah, he needs to get a few on his laptop, so he hopefully will get some more on there. But I will try to see if I have time to publish that video. I got to look at what time the event starts that I got to be at. If not, I'll publish a video in the morning and make that happen. It looks like the event is starting in half an hour or less, so I don't know if I have time to upload. But nonetheless, enjoy the day. It is going to stop raining for the rest of the day. I am thrilled if that's actually a fact. So I don't know if that's true or not. That's what the magic weather says, is that it's supposed to stop raining. I'm really hoping. If you haven't heard, Michigan has become a flood zone everywhere. Like we got farmers declaring bankruptcy, and it's raining cats and dogs, and the stadium was flooded, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, Netflix was so much cheaper 3 years ago. All these companies are so much more expensive. So actually, Gazoo. Let's see if I can find this real quick. This is. See, I want to find a good picture of it. Where's a good picture? Why do people? There we go. That's a great picture of it. So this is someone on Twitter posted this here. That's a stadium. That's a football stadium. That's how much water and rain we got. That this is crazy. Oh, this is I'm sorry. This is the old picture. This is a 2017. Let me find the current one. Why is this so hard to find? Where's it at? funny. I had this pulled up this morning. Oh, well, I'll find it. If you look for it's the Michigan Kalamazoo Michigan football stadium. There we go. Here's the current pictures of it, which look like the old pictures. Don't worry. I like that. This is today's photos. Oh, looks like I got it. See, this is the problem with some of the ad blockers. If you don't turn them off, you can't view some of the sites. So let's show over here. Isn't that crazy, though? I mean, this is a football stadium. I like this picture the best. I think this one's good. It looks like a giant... is there a way to zoom that in at all? I guess it's as big as it gets. Whatever. That's how much rain we've been getting. This is today, the football stadium. So, gives you an idea of the amount of rain we've had here in Michigan. It's been just crazy, crazy, crazy amount of rain. Yeah. My whole backyard is still underwater. For those of you that remember the hole that was in my backyard, the hole's filled in, but my backyard is a swamp still, trying to sort all that out. So, yeah, time to get some bottled water. Anyways, starting there. Oh, starting on, yeah. Yeah, all the companies are offering their streaming service. I think we're going to see kind of a right siding of the market in that, or where they just charge us per show is probably going to be the business model. That way, instead of having to pay a monthly service, you just buy the series you want. I think they're going to start moving to that model. I don't know. I could be wrong. Yeah, we're just hammered with rain for sure. Yeah. Yeah, a pie hole works too. I have a pie hole at home, so that works too. But there's still sometimes problems, and some sites break with the pie hole because of all the ads being blocked. Welcome to the world of dealing with that. So, what are you gonna do? All right, I'm gonna wander off the live stream now and go do some other fun stuff. Yeah, in Germany we also have a lot of flooding because of heavy rains right now. Oh, so hey, we got something in common, Germany. It's wet here. It's wet there. All right. I will see all of you. Like, subscribe. Head over to the forums to keep the conversation going. See you next time. See you if you have time. Join us for How They Got Hacked. That's going on tomorrow. So, yes, exciting times, exciting stuff to do. I'm going to go hang out with some geeks and have a few beers with them and talk tech. All right, thanks.